Hey guys, what's going on? It's Kelly McKay here, aka HVC Millionaire, right here on YouTube, and I've got Mr. Lee Godbold with us again today, and we're going to be talking about booking more HVAC jobs.
Hey guys, really excited to be on Kelly's channel again. It's been a lot of fun so far.
We'll jump right into it, or you take it away, Lee. You get us started.
Well, yeah. So, when you start an HVAC business, a lot of HVAC business owners obviously come from the tech world. And when somebody asks you what kind of tools do you need to be an HVAC tech and HVAC professional, one of the last things you probably ever think about naming is the telephone. But when you go off and you start your own HVAC business, this thing right here, this telephone right here, this becomes the most important tool in your toolbox, the one that can make you the most money. But it's one that a lot of people neglect. So a lot of business owners really neglect it. On average, this isn't just for the HVAC field. This is all calls for all businesses for the most part. 72 to 80% of callers will not leave voicemails. The HVAC is on the high end of that, unless they're a previous client. A previous client stands a better chance of leaving a voicemail message, but otherwise, if their HVAC unit just went out or their heat unit just went out and it's hot outside or it's cold outside, if you don't pick up the phone, your chance of getting that job just went cold, because they're going to go right down to the next person in line, next person on Google, and contact them. The majority of callers will hang up after 5 rings. And you want to make sure you're not just an order taker. So I hear so many people all the time, business owners, not all business owners are excellent on the telephone. We're going to try and help you guys out with that now by giving you a lot of great strategies. But this phone will ring, they'll pick it up. What's the first question a lot of people ask? Not always, but a lot of people ask right after they say their unit isn't working. They say, how much is it going to cost? And they go right into explaining, well, the diagnostic fee is $86. And then they pause. They don't say anything. So what's that person going to do? Any good shopper at that point is going to say, okay, thanks, I'll call you back. They're never going to call you back. Then they're going to hang up on you. And they're going to go to Google. They're going to dial up the next schmuck. And they're going to say, how do you price? And the next guy down the line is probably going to say the same thing, except he's $75. Well, that's the guy that's going to get the booking, or they're going to keep shopping. Or you're going to find somebody that might have a higher service fee, but he's actually going to have an order and structure to his call. And he might have a higher diagnostic fee than you do. But just because he's not just an order taker, he's a salesperson in a way, he might wind up booking the job even though he's more expensive. So you cannot be an order taker. And this phone, most important tool in your tool chest.
Absolutely. So when the call is answered, it's said to be as high as 40% of the calls coming in are not actually being put on the scheduled and booked. And that's like 40% of your revenue that's just lost in your business. So believe it or not, if you're struggling to grow, like this is the first step to take, is to dig into your phones to make sure that you are capturing as many phone calls that come in as possible. And, when you're spending money on any marketing at the same time, then that's even that much more money that's just being wasted. So it's a great deal that could be lost just from not answering the phones properly.
Kelly, I'd like to add one thing on this too. This 40%, this is overall industry-wide. And you think about the fact you've got some HVAC companies that have been in business 5, 10, 30, 50 years, and they've got clientele that is extremely loyal to them. So this includes the people that, even if you don't answer your phone and call them back, some of those previous clients, they'll leave voicemail messages. When you're a brand new business, if you've only been in business for a couple months or a couple years, your rate is going to be higher. It's going to be harder to book jobs because you're going to have people that are a lot less loyal. So this number here for a business that has not been in as long is going to actually be significantly higher. You're going to, it's going to be over 50% of calls not getting booked unless you know how to handle it.
Absolutely. And, we we'll talk about it a little more, but how you just right away when somebody calls in, how you answer that phone makes a big difference. But how could this impact your business? How could booking more calls make a big difference in what you earn? Well, let's say you got 100 calls per month. At one point or another, we've had months where whether we were smaller or it's slow times, whatever, we've went through months where you get those 100 calls. Well, what if you only booked 60 of those and your average invoice was $300? Well, if you could increase that booking rate by 20%, and that's even minor. I mean, I would say that it's highly likely with some training and with the right partnership, like you can actually raise that up to 85 to even all the way up to 95% booking rate. But let's just be conservative here and say that we booked 20% more of the calls that came in. Well, if you had 100 calls, that'd be 20 more calls. So 20 more revenue producing calls per month. If your average invoice was $300, well, 300 times 20 is 6,000. And take that over the course of a year, that's $72,000 that you could be missing out on extra revenue. And that's just service. You know as well as I do that some of those calls are going to turn into estimates. They're going to turn into a $10,000 replacement opportunity. So this is extremely conservative numbers here. Just by changing this one little thing, you could increase business, easily by $400,000 in 1 year. But if we're only talking service, you can see there, if it's $400 average ticket, that's $96,000 for the year. $500 average ticket, that's an extra 10 grand a month, or $120,000 a year. We're talking, this is the extra money that you've been looking for, the extra money to be able to hire that person you need, or buy that extra truck, or get more equipment, or move into an actual building, a place of business. This is life impacting, business impacting stuff that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of HVAC business owners that aren't making $72,000 in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they could be sitting there leaving that on the table. I mean, even if this was half, let's just say this was 50% more than what you could expect, you're still leaving at minimum $30,000-$40,000 on the table. And in reality, I guess it's obviously a lot more when you account for installations.
Yeah, I mean, a lot more. I didn't even put together numbers for that, but the reality is that 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10, I would say at least 2 out of 10 are going to be some type of an equipment or replacement opportunity. So with a much higher invoice than than $500. So how much is a one phone call really worth? Well, we have to look at the lifetime value of that client as well. And the average in our industry, from the little bit of research I did, it's $1,000 to $1,500 of extra revenue per year per client. That doesn't mean that they spend $1,000 to $1,500 every single year, but over a 7-year period, it's going to be $7,000 to $10,000. So whether you continue to take care of them and you have a couple of $300 invoices, and then finally the unit dies and you're the first person they call because they're in your funnel, they're in your circle of clients, then that's your money. Chances are, if you've built a relationship at that point, they're not going to try and call anyone else. So, of course, when you get more clients, there's less seasonal volatility. The weather is going to impact our service. Units don't break down when it's 60, 65 degrees. They just don't have to work very hard. But what can carry you over those slow months, on top of maintenance agreements and stuff like that, and a bigger customer list, is replacements. So that's the time when you'd be able to run a sale, and now you have these extra customers in your pipeline, and it's all about keeping that pipeline full. So it's also easier to keep employees busy. And when you've got a stable business and you've got cash flow coming in, let's face it, there's less stress, period. So it's just an overall better business model.
Oh, yeah. So with our contact center with HVAC, for HVAC companies, we've developed kind of some rules that all of our reps are trained on, and they apply to everybody. So even a business owner, you guys should follow these rules. If you follow these rules, you're going to book a lot more jobs. And like Kelly said, if we go back a couple slides here, it could be an additional $72,000. It essentially goes straight into your pocket if you wanted to. Plus, once you account for those installations. So following rules, this is one example of a time where, or something you should be following the law on, following the rules on. So number one is answering the phone. And this sounds basic, but especially for the techs out there, the owners out there that are also delivering the service. So they're still doing service calls. This rule can get skipped all the time. Because, if you're sitting there in an attic working on an air handler and it's 110 degrees upstairs, the last thing you want to do is pick up that phone and answer it. But that phone needs to be answered. Now, in that situation, you're probably not the one that should be answering it, because you're going to be out of breath and you're going to be sweating all over the place, and you're not going to be able to really focus on that phone call. But that phone, irregardless, even if that's if you're in that attic, it's got to get answered, and you need to have a way of doing that. So always answer the phone. And one of the other deals is it's got to be answered at all hours. At all hours, we all know at some point in time, if an air conditioning unit or heat unit goes out, or especially the guys, if you're offering plumbing also, and a plumbing emergency occurs, you don't have the luxury of not answering that phone. So either you or somebody has to be available pretty much at almost all hours, answering that telephone, at least outside of that 8 to 5 window, and it needs to be 7 days a week. And, this is a great statistic right here. HVAC industry-wide, this is an approximation, but it's very, very close. Approximately 50% of callers are only going to make one phone call. So if that 50% calls you and you don't answer, and the next person does, who's going to get the job? It's not going to be you, because you didn't answer.
That could almost translate into, just by answering the phone, you've got a 50% chance of booking that call. And that's not a very good closing rate, but it's better than not answering it at all. So
yeah, you're gonna close 0% of the calls you don't answer.
Yeah. Rule 2 is control the call. So the majority of companies, they let the caller dictate the direction, right? They it's kind of what Lee said earlier. When people first call in, they're say, hey, my air conditioner's broke. How much you guys charge to come out? Like, immediately they're taking control of that call when they say it like that. So you have to establish the call flow and just stick with it every single time, because they're going to try to throw you off your game. And when that happens, your likelihood of booking the call goes drastically down. So when they call in, you can't let them take you off the path and get out of your order of how you're going to take this information. So if they come at you like that and say, my air conditioner's broke, how much you guys charge to come out? I'm immediately going to
Kelly, I'll respond to that.
Okay.
If let's say you're the customer and you tell me that, I say, I'd be happy to get you that information. First off, if you can just give me a little bit more information so I can, help you get that price. First off, what is your name and telephone number, just in case we get disconnected?
Yeah. Kelly McKay, 555-5555.
And we'll go kind of throughout the rest of the call, maybe at a later point. But, I guess one thing that you want to notice that, how I handle that is there was nothing pushy about that. There was nothing sleazy about it. It's just, it came across as very helpful and courteous. Simply put, we just need more information to help them, help us provide the price.
And I can tell you from experience, when I was in the field and answering the phones all the time, I cannot, I have no idea how much money I was losing, because I would let them control the call, and I would say, it's $75 diagnostic fee. Okay, well, I'll call you back. And at the end of the day, you may have had half a dozen of those and you don't even remember them. You don't even remember them because you're busy. You're in the field. You're working on stuff. You're trying to get your customers taken care of. And you just don't realize just how much revenue and how much growth that you're always talking about and wanting, it doesn't come. And you're wondering why. Well, this is one of the reasons why. It's one of the primary reasons why.
It's right there in front of you. It's this telephone right here. And I'm ashamed to admit it, but when I started our junk removal business back in 2011, 2012, there were times when I was on the first, year and a half, 2 years, I was on most of the jobs. And there were times I was sitting there working and the phone would ring and I'd answer the phone and they'd have a question and I'd answer it and they'd hang up. And I was almost relieved that I was like, all right, I don't have to talk to these people. And you can't help if you're hot and tired trying to get through your day. If you've had a long day, sometimes you answer the phone and you just hope it's a quick one. And that's not a good thing, but it's a natural human tendency when you're tired and hot and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with you by doing that. You just need, if that's the situation you're in, you need to find somebody else to answer the phone, or you need to, discontinue doing the service calls and working on, taking those client calls. But long-term, getting somebody else, whether it's a contact center like us at Market Today, or if it's somebody you hire in-house, that's how you got to get to, or you're just going to hate your business.
Yeah. So this is what Lee was just talking about, was the no distractions. How do you think it makes the customer feel when you answer the phone and they hear, yeah, hello. Well, the way we used to answer our phones is just, McKay's Heating and Cooling. And that was it. We didn't have a greeting whatsoever. But how do you think that makes the customer feel when they call and they hear all this, you got your hands full and you're trying to make it back to the truck so you can set something down so you can actually get to a piece of paper and write something down. Well, it doesn't make them feel like they're the most important people. And that's the thing, is they need to feel like they're the most important people, because more times than not in our industry, when people call, there's some anxiety. Like they have anxiety, they have a fear. They know that they need the service, and they're hoping that you're going to tell them exactly what they want to hear, which is you're going to come right out and fix it for them. So they could be absolutely in a panic when they call you. And that's why it's important to focus in on them and make sure that they feel like, they're extremely important, because they are. They're what's going to, I've talked about this in the past, but the customer pays for everything. It doesn't matter what business you're in. The customer pays for everything. So they are the lifeblood of your business. So the more you can collect and the more you can make happy, and it's just a win-win. So, try to cut your background noise. I know that's really hard if you're on a construction job, or sometimes even if you're driving, if you got your passenger, somebody riding with you and they're on the phone, like there needs to be clear communication. If you've got a helper riding with you, hey, when I answer the phone, the business phone, if I'm still answering it, I need you to, be quiet so I can make sure that all my attention goes on to the customer. So, of course, try not to be out of breath, but if you got your hands full climbing down a ladder answering the phone, it could be difficult. So, but the main thing is you don't want her or him, whoever the customer is, to feel like they're an imposition, like they're being a burden just by calling you.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things Kelly was talking about early on was controlling the call. And the key to controlling the call is pretty much keeping the caller in order. So the very first step is going to be the greeting. You then have info gathering. And info gathering and the scheduling portion are going to take the most time. Info gathering is usually going to take a little bit more time than just getting the information down. Info giving and scheduling is listed as one step. Now, the reason it's listed as one step potentially here is because most of the information that you give is going to be around the diagnostic fee for the most part, or explaining, that the tech's going to come out and all that sort of stuff. So really info giving, and could either be at number 3 or as even part of number 4. If somebody's asked you about pricing before hand, then so let's say right at the beginning of the call, before you've been able to get their information down and all, the info giving would be at the same time as scheduling, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. That final step is going to be that confirmation of the appointment, and sometimes you're going to wrap in confirming the appointment and info giving, which is the diagnostic fee, all at the same time. Okay, so the greeting, very, very simple. It's not what Kelly used to do. It's not McKay's Heating and Cooling. Pick up the phone, McKay's Heating and Cooling. And the other person on the other end is like, all right, is there going to be anything else to this? Or, and you all hear it. Anybody that answers the phone like that knows there's generally followed by like a half a second to a second and a half of nothing, because the caller expects there to be something else coming and there's not. Right off the bat, you've disappointed the customer because, they're like, there should have been something else here. So it needs to be, thank you for calling Service HQ. This is Lee, or this is Kelly, whatever. How can I help you? Thanks for calling Service HQ. This is Kelly. How can I help you? Okay, so the second step is going to be info gathering. Again, this is going to be the step that probably takes the longest. You're going to be doing a lot of listening. And this step right here, though, is going to be very, very critical to raising up that booking rate, to getting that additional $73,000 plus that you're leaving on the table. So let's do this by just a real brief kind of mock call between Kelly and myself. Kelly, the phone's ringing right now. Thank you for calling Service HQ. This is Lee. How can I help you?
Yeah, my air conditioner's not working. Just wondering if I could get somebody to come out and take a look at it.
Yeah, certainly. We would be happy to help you out with that. I'm sorry that your unit quit. I know it's a really hot day out there today. This is like one of the worst days for that to occur.
Yeah, it is hot.
So just in case we get disconnected, what is your name and telephone number?
It's Kelly McKay, 555-5555.
Okay. And Kelly, tell me just a little bit more kind of on what's going on with your particular unit, what kind of issues you're having.
Yeah, it's just blowing hot air. I don't know. I noticed that the outdoor unit wasn't running, and I got my thermostat set at 75, but it says it's 77 in here, and it seems to be just getting warmer.
Okay, I understand. All right, and then do you have a membership?
No, I don't. This is the first time I've called you guys.
Awesome. Hey, that's really exciting. We're glad that you called. Our tech can talk to you at the conclusion after we get your unit back going, kind of on the benefits of potentially joining our membership, which could prevent, an outage like this potentially in the future.
Sure, I'd be interested.
That's great. And do you know how old that air conditioning unit is?
It's about 15 years old.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then Kelly, what is the street address we're going to be going to?
It's 1234 Main Street.
All right, and city and zip on that.
Douglas, Kansas, 67039.
Okay, and do you have an alternate phone number you'd like us to take down?
No, you can just call this one. I answer it all the time. I always have it with me. That's my cell.
Okay, great. And what about a good email address?
Yeah, it's kelly@gmail.com.
That's an amazing you actually got that email address there. You must have gotten that one a long time ago.
Yeah, I was an early adopter. How much is it for somebody to come out?
Yeah, certainly. I'd be happy to get that for you. Give me just one more second to get the last little bit of information from you, and okay. I'll get that for you. How did you find out about us?
Google.
Awesome. That's kind of how everybody finds out about us now. Okay, and then how soon are you looking to have us come out?
I'd like somebody to come out today if possible. It's really hot, and I'm afraid that the high is 97, and it's only here in a couple hours, it could, that 77 degrees could turn into 85, and it's going to get awfully uncomfortable in here. So the sooner the better.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. And actually, I believe I can make that happen today. So what I can do is get you scheduled. The way this is going to work is we're going to schedule a 2-hour arrival window. Our tech is going to call you when they're about 30 minutes out, when he's about 30 minutes out. Once he gets on site, he is going to look at your unit. He's going to diagnose what's going on with it. He'll then sit down with you and go over kind of our recommended course of action on repairing that unit. And then if you give us the go-ahead, he comes fully stocked with tools. He's, generally he'll have the time and everything to go ahead and fix that unit right then and there in most cases. There's a diagnostic fee of $89. And like I said, we can get out there today. I do have this 4 to 6 arrival time for this afternoon. That way we can get that unit up and going for you. Does that sound good to you?
Great. That sounds good.
Perfect. Okay. All right. And that's the end of the info gathering stage. Like I said, that's the longest part of the call right there. Ask your, listen to this, that part, this slide, listen back to this a few times. And like right now, I want you to think about, are you handling the call like that? Are you, or are you just, are you going and, whatever order the person that called in brings you? Are you going with the tide, or are you trying to, are you controlling where you're going, or is the tide just kind of moving you all over the place? And that's something you have to make sure you're really in control of. Okay, so this says step 4. It's actually step 3. It is the info giving and scheduling the job. Most of this is just scheduling the job. The only time that you might give a little information here is if that person just keeps pressing you and pressing you and pressing you for a price. You might need to kind of work that diagnostic fee in there beforehand. But anytime you work in what the diagnostic fee is, if it's 89 or whatever, you want to immediately go into scheduling the job. So at that point, you want to go through, the tech's going to come out, a fully stocked vehicle, you know the deal. He's going to look at the unit, diagnose it, so on and so forth. The cost of that's going to be $89, and we can be out there as soon as a 4 to 6 arrival time this afternoon. So essentially what we just did in that previous slide. Scheduling the job's easy though. You've already got the majority of the information. At this point, you're just going to make sure everything's been implemented into the system and get entered in that CRM and get dispatched out. In step 4, not 5, but step 4, confirmation. Very simple, but important. So in the confirmation, especially, let's say that when Kelly called, he didn't ask me about pricing. He just wanted to get scheduled. And we all know we get a lot of calls. Some people don't care what it costs when it comes to their air conditioning. So you've gone through this entire call. You haven't had to explain the price. You still want to make sure you work into what the diagnostic fee is, because if you don't work that in and you get out there and it's an $89 diagnostic fee, it could really irritate a customer and it could keep you from getting that fee. So the way this works, it would be, okay, Kelly, I've got you down for an arrival time of 4 to 6 this afternoon at 1234 Main Street. That tech's going to come out, take a look at what you have. The diagnostic fee is just $86. And as long as he should have all the parts and everything on the truck, as long as you give us the go-ahead, we'll get started right then and there, trying to get that unit repaired in most situations. Do you have any questions for me?
No, that sounds great.
There you go. So that's the best way to handle that confirmation. Always make sure you work in that diagnostic fee and do so in a way where it doesn't seem pushy or slimy or whatever. Some of this, some people out there, if you go through some sales training, it just comes off as slimy. We want to control the call. We want to get as many bookings as possible, but we want to do so by being as helpful as possible and being as courteous as possible. And this is a great way of going about doing that. So Kelly, I think you're going to
handling objections. So number 1, price. This is the most common objection that we get. If the call starts out with a price question, you always want to stay in the order that your structure that you've built, and the structure, use the structure that we're sharing here. But you can do so by saying this, we'd be happy to get you a price. Please tell me more about what you got going on, or just tell me more. Yeah, we'd be happy to get you a price. Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you've got going on today? And then, go right into the information gathering where, in the information gathering, anytime you call like AT&T, the first thing out of their mouth is, let me get your phone number just in case we get disconnected. Give me your name and your phone number. So that's always like, in order to control the situation, you could just flat use that every time. Yeah. And they say, how much is it for you guys to come out? Yeah, I'd be happy to help you with that. First, before we get disconnected, please give me your name and phone number, and then go deeper. Now, what do you have going on today? What's your unit doing? I think that just shows, it's going to show empathy and just show that you care. And if you get them to talking, they love to talk about what's going on, and you become friends. Like, you can quickly become friends with the customer on the phone. And when that happens, the price doesn't even matter. They're going to book with you. So always show the empathy and become their friends. So that'd be the first step on handling the price objection.
Yeah. And I will add, I do know most pricing objections, generally the point where it's going to happen is normally going to be right there at the beginning of the call. That's where you're going to hear it a lot. Now, sometimes if you've already used that, what's your name and telephone number? The way you can handle that, if you've already used that, right, because right at the front of the beginning of the call, you should get the name and the telephone number. So if they ask it after that point, just simply say, yeah, Kelly, I'll be happy to get you that price. Let me get just a little bit more information from you, and that'll help me, explain that to you.
Especially, it's hard to give a price if you have zones. A lot of people do zones like we do for our diagnostic fee. So I really don't know the price until I can know where they're calling from. So I'm not being, slimy in any way here. I'm trying to get more information so we can make sure we take care of them. So second part of handling the objections is, you'd say, I'd be happy to explain that, Miss Jones. What we're going to do is schedule an arrival window, and we'll send out our qualified service technician. He's going to let you know when he's on his way. And once he gets there, he's going to diagnose the unit. He'll then sit down with you and clearly explain what needs to be done and why. And if you're ready to proceed with the repair, then, he's going to have most of the tools and the parts on his van to get you squared away right there. And the cost for him to diagnose your unit is going to be $89. And you wanted us there by tomorrow afternoon. Is that correct? We could actually make it out first thing in the morning between 8 to 10. So instead of just stopping there at the $89, it's just continuing. And what we're doing here is we're just building value. If you don't build the value and you just say it's $89 for us to come out and diagnose it, that means nothing to them. There's no value there. So having them understand that, 85% of the time or 90% of the time, we have what we need to get your unit up and running. And it's a qualified, trained service expert who's coming to your house. That just means a lot to the customer. So, basically we're just doing a pivot here. If we get up into the price objection, just pivot and run right past it. We said it right here, but we're just running right past it and asking to book the appointment. So if the client still won't book, if they're just hung up for some reason on that diagnostic fee, or when you give that diagnostic fee in that previous slide and they say, okay, well, let me talk to my husband and I'll let you know. Well, Miss Jones, just to make sure, is the price the reason that you're not wanting to schedule with me right now? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we had somebody out last spring and they only charged us $50 diagnostic fee. So, okay, well, have you seen the coupon on our website? Tell me this. If I can apply this coupon for $30 off the service call, and I'm going to just go ahead and put it on there. I don't want you to go to the website and print it off or anything. I'm just going to apply it. If you'll allow me to do that, could we go ahead and schedule and book the call today? So it's like a trade, we're trading. So, and you'll find most of the time that they're going to be like, oh, that's great. That's great. That's less than what I paid the first time. So of course, we're not just handing out coupons and, to everybody all the time. But if this is what it takes to book the call, if it's truly the diagnostic fee that's the holdup that's keeping them from booking, well, then why not? especially if you know that your average service invoice is $400, $500, $600.
So the next objection you're going to get is turnaround time. And, this is something we all know. When it's hot outside, that's when everybody's units breaks. That's when you're busy. And it's very, very, unfortunately, the nature of the beast in the HVAC business is oftentimes the times you can't make it out or is when the most people actually need you, which kind of makes sense. It's those hot days. So what can you do to keep from missing out on these calls? Because we all know you might be full, but you're going to get a cancellation here and there. And, any number of things could wind up occurring where you actually are able to squeeze somebody in. The other thing that happens is you do know when you're busy, most other competitors are busy as well. So you want to get that person on the schedule, because otherwise they're going to call around. They're not going to find anybody that can do her that same day. But she's going to go ahead and go with the last person she talked with just because she might as well. Why call back one of those previous clients? So you introduce the urgency list. So in this case, it's, I 100% understand that, you're in a hurry today, Ms. Jones. It is definitely hot outside. We really want to get that unit up and going for you. We're going to do everything that we possibly can. We've got actually a good chance of making it out there today, but we would need to place you on our urgency list. Now, what that means is if and when one of our techs get freed up, we're going to be able to head your way and get you squared away. What I need to do is put you down for a regular slot, like tomorrow morning between 8 to 10. And then I'm going to make sure you're placed on that urgency list, and the tech's going to call you when he gets freed up. How does that sound? So, or that urgency list, you're going to book a bunch of appointments off that urgency list when you're having issues with turnaround time. Our company, this is the second one here. If they object again, they ask you, well, what's the likelihood you're actually going to make it out? At that point, you're going to say something like, certainly. Our company is 100% locally owned and operated. We have several certified techs and vans and techs running around. It's extremely common for them to get ahead of schedule or somebody cancel. You know the drill. So there's a pretty good possibility we can make it out there today. By placing you on the urgency list, you've got a great shot of that occurring. And then you'll try and get on the list. Lastly, if they still don't want to do it, if they say, I'm sorry, it's just too hot, I need to call around, you then let them know, Ms. Jones, I certainly understand that. You've got to get that unit up and going. Here's what I do know, though, and it's kind of unfortunate. When we're busy, our competitors are generally busy. And it's an extremely hot day out there today. There's a lot of HVAC units that are breaking. How about we get set up kind of as your backup? And what I mean by that is let's get your information down. Let's get you a slot. Let's get you on the urgency list. That way you got a good shot of somebody actually making it out today. And if for some reason, if you're able to call around and you find somebody that is able to help you today, hey, just call us back. There's no cancellation charge. So let's go ahead and get you set up as the backup. How's that sound?
Yeah.
And you got to do your best to actually get out there, because if you actually make it out there on that day, you've got a customer for life.
Absolutely.
And if a competitor winds up getting this customer and they take care of them that day, the chances of you ever getting another job from that customer are slim. And what do we talk about, on a 7-year time frame? How much, Kelly, how much money was it again for lifetime value?
$7,000, $7,000.
$7 to $10,000 lifetime value over a 7-year time frame for these customers. So you not being able to make it out there cost you $7,000. Well, if you do that, if that occurs to you 50 times a year, just once, you do the math. What is that? $350,000 it's costing you over a 7-year time frame. Just those 50 from 1 year. That's not every single year. If you look over 7 years, hell, that's $2 million. So, or whatever it is, if you look at the lifetime value, if that's occurring every single year, it's so critical to add vans, add trucks, scale, add people, so you can take care of more people. Because if you don't, you're just going to miss out on a lot of money. Kelly, there is one thing I realize we didn't cover in here. It's around the objections on price. And you might as well handle it because I know you know how to handle it. This is a call we get from time to time. Somebody calls up and they say, I've got my unit's low on Freon. How much do you charge for Freon?
Yeah, sure. We'd be glad to help you with that. Do you know what type of refrigerant that your unit takes?
I'm not certain. They came out and they filled it up last year.
Okay, let me look that up real quick. What was your name? Of course, I would get your name and everything in the beginning, but we're just getting right to the point here. So, but I can tell you, there's some ways to get around this. So, one of those ways is just to keep asking questions. You can say, you know, okay, well, what's the tonnage of your unit? Do you know how much refrigerant the thing actually holds? Because I want to make sure that I'm quoting you something, close to what it could cost if we come out. And, well, how long is the line set? Where's your indoor unit located? If we dig deeper and we ask these questions, you're gonna get a bunch of I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And well, I tell you what I can do. I hate to give you a price over the phone and be wrong and have you get mad at me. So why don't we do this? Let's get you on our schedule, and I'm going to send my service expert out there. He's going to take a look at everything, and before he does anything, he'll go ahead and let you know an estimate of how much it would actually take to, charge it properly to get you going again. How does that sound? Something to that nature. But if you just flat out say, oh, it's $120 a pound, or it's $60 a pound, whatever, if they know, oh, it's R22. Okay, well, it's $120 a pound. Okay, what's the next thing you hear? You hear, okay, I'll call you back. And they don't call you back. So anytime we can not give a price over the phone other than the diagnostic fee, we don't. And the way we do that is we, I hate to say it this way, but the reality is it's complicated. It is complicated. So we know it's more complicated than just dumping refrigerant into a system. We've got to check the, superheat, subcooling, temperature drop, the filter, airflow. Like we have to check all of these things. The outdoor condenser. It's never just going out and dumping refrigerant into a unit. It never is. I know you guys can agree with me on that. So we really need to come take a look at it if we're going to be, do a thorough job and make that system work properly. Yeah. So if we can get away from just giving that price, but I was on the other side of that for many years. We just, once again, the customer can, if there's one thing that you can take away from this presentation that we're talking about is you control the conversation. Don't let the customer. And they'll try to control that conversation. So don't let them, ask them some questions, find out more information. It's the only way to make sure that you're going to book as many calls as you can and actually grow your business. So do you have any closing statements before I close us out here, Lee?
I know this presentation probably carried on for about an hour or so, but I wish there had been something like this when I first started in business. Kelly, when you and I started in business, we didn't have YouTube to get this type of information. There's a lot fewer resources back then, and the resources we had to pay a lot for. So, a video like this, this is pretty good training that, is hard to come by. So hopefully everybody found it helpful. I'm excited, Kelly, to be, working alongside you on providing services with people and being able to, do these YouTube videos and help people out. Because like I said, I wish something like this would have existed when we started.
And that's why I started this YouTube channel to begin with, Lee's, because I know what I went through, and it's just unnecessary. So, guys, I highly recommend, if any of the stuff we talked about in this presentation sounds like you and you're going through some of this stuff, to reach out to Lee and his team at Market Today. They only take calls for HVAC and junk removal companies. I can tell you personally, because I've worked real closely with them, is the reps, they totally get this. And they are going to book those jobs for you. They're going to do a way better job, I can tell you, than you're doing. And I'm not trying to put you down or anything. I'm just being honest here. They're good and they're professional. So they're going to schedule it, and you'll be proud. You'll be proud that they're representing your company. And I promise you're going to get people who say, oh, who's that girl in your office? Who's Melissa? She was so nice. Be sure to tell her thank you. Like, you're going to hear that stuff,
Yeah.
they take the phones, whether it's you're just ready to like have a vacation from the phone, or here in a couple of weeks when we get deep into summer and it gets to be a little overwhelming and you just need a break, like reach out to them, get this stuff set up today so it's easy when you're ready. Get it set up today, and then it's nothing but forwarding your number, and they're going to take over, and they're going to book more calls than you probably do. And guys, I get it, because I remember this one particular job I was on, and I got to it, and it was like a stone house, and the disconnect had failed, and it was all burned up. And I had to change the disconnect. The whip was like cracked. I had to change the whip, replace the fuses. And during that service call, my phone rang 4 times. I couldn't stop. And like, I mean, I had to stop. I couldn't actually get my work done because I had to stop and book this call. And some of those calls were longtime customers of mine, or customers that came with me after I started my own company. So, and I know how hard it is to work. And that means that's less time that you have to get the actual work done. So the efficiency portion of it, like we can't even monetize that, what that's like for you not to worry about the phones. You just do your work. So Lee and I were talking before we got started, and it's like, instead of you becoming your own boss, the telephone becomes the boss because it takes precedence over everything. And that's why this is such a game changer, guys. I've also been on jobs where you physically cannot answer your phone because you're covered in sweat.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will not open.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Lee's experienced that before.
Nothing's more frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter how hard you swipe, that thing just will not answer.
Nope. So go check it out at www.markettoday.com. Reach out to Lee and his team. They'll take great care of you. Get it set up before the summer kicks in so you can actually gain some of your life back, guys. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks, Lee, for being on here and sharing this information. I hope this was helpful for everybody. And use these principles. You're going to book more calls, make more money.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Lee. Go make money.